Hello, welcome to the Lily Loves podcast. I thought today I would do a slightly different episode, just an extra episode, as it will, about books. More specifically, the books that I am excited to read in 2021. I watched an episode of Stitching the High Notes, and Joanna had done something similar, so I thought it was a really good idea. I love watching these types of videos, so I thought I would have a go. So if you're here just for crochet, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I will be back with a podcast next week, but just for today I'm going to sit and talk about the books that I would like to read throughout the next year. So what I've done is I've gone through my bookshelf and I've pulled off some books that I bought last year that I didn't get around to reading, and then I've also gone through some new releases for 2021 and had a look at which ones I'm really excited about. So I think I'm going to do my top 12 book recommendations for 2021 based on the types of books that I'm interested in, not really anything else. So I can't tell you yet if they're going to be worth the hype or whether I'll enjoy them. These are just books that I'm excited to read. So I've got 6 from the bookcase that, like I said, have already been out. I've already bought. They were on my to be read pile. And then I've also looked at the future releases. I've got my cup of coffee, and I think we'll get straight into it. So on my to be read pile, I've got Dolly Alderton's Ghosts. I've heard lots of good things about this. I think it's the first Dolly Alderton book that I will have read. It's about a woman in her 30s, a single woman in her 30s, and that's about as much as I know. But I do expect it to give me a few laughs, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. I can read you the blurb. It says, Nina Dean has arrived at her 30s as a successful food writer with loving friends and family, plus a new home and neighbourhood, when she meets Max, a beguiling romantic hero who tells her on date 1 that he's going to marry her. It feels like all is going to plan. A new relationship couldn't have come at a better time. Her 30s have not been the liberating, uncomplicated experience she was sold. Everywhere she turns, she is reminded of time passing and opportunities dwindling. Friends are fading, ex-boyfriends are moving on, and worse, everyone's moving to the suburbs. There's no solace to be found in her family, with a mum who's caught in a baffling midlife makeover and a beloved dad who is vanishing in slow motion into dementia. Dolly Alderton's debut novel is funny and tender, filled with whip-smart observations about relationships, family, and memory and how we live. But there we go, it's a debut novel. That would be why I haven't read anything else from her. So that's the first one I'm looking forward to reading. I might pick that one up actually. I could do with a bit of a light-hearted read. The next one I've got that I bought last year is The Foundling by Stacey Halls. I read last year The Familiars. Was it last year or the year before? And I really enjoyed it. And this is her next book. And this one says, London, 1754, 6 years after leaving her illegitimate daughter Clara at London's Foundling Hospital, Bess Bright returns to reclaim the child she has never known. Dreading the worst, that Clara has died in care, Bess is astonished when she is told that she has already claimed her. Her life is turned upside down as she tries to find out who has taken her little girl and why. So I really liked Stacey Hall's writing in The Familiar, so I'm really excited to read that one. And then next, I'm sorry if I'm going through these quite fast, but like I said, I haven't really heard much about them, so I can really only go on the blurb. This one I'm really excited to read actually. This is called The Vanishing Half by Britt, Bennett. And this one is about, I know this one's about a set of twins who both run away, age 16, they run away, and well, I'll read you the blurb, they can explain it better than I can. Twins, inseparable as children, ultimately choose to live in 2 very different worlds, one black and one white. After growing up together in a small southern black community and running away at age 16, it's not just the shape of their daily lives that is different as adults. It's everything, including their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape, Across the country, the other secretly passes for white, and her husband knows nothing of her past. Still, although separated by so many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen when their own daughter's storyline intersect? Weaving together multiple strands and generations from the Deep South to California, from the 1950s to the 1990s, The Vanishing Half is at once a riveting, emotional family story and a brilliant exploration of race, gender and identity, and the lasting influence of the past as it shapes a person's desires and expectations. So I'm really excited to read that. Also, so many good books, but I've heard lots of people talking about this and saying that they really enjoyed it. So we're giving that one a go. And then this one is Pandora's Jar. This is a non-fiction book. I did show this in one of my Christmas vlogs. My husband bought it for me for Christmas. It's by Natalie Haynes and it's Women in the Greek Myths. So that's just a non-fiction book. It says, modern tellers of Greek myth have usually been men and have routinely showed little interest in telling women's narratives. And when they do, those women are often painted as monstrous, vengeful, or just plain evil. But Pandora, the first woman who, according to legend, unloosed chaos upon the world, was not a villain. And even Medea and Phaedra have more nuanced stories than generations of retellings indicate. So I'm really excited to read because I did enjoy Stephen Fry's his book on myths. I can't remember what that was called, but I'm always interested in women's history, and so it's really nice to get a woman's perspective on that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. How many is that? That's 4, 5. This is number 5. This is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This was recommended to me by a friend at work, but it was already on my Goodreads list. I love Maggie O'Farrell's writing. She wrote, I think, maybe Instructions for a Heatwave, I've read. The Vanishing of Esme Lennox, I think was hers as well. I just love the way she writes. And this story is set in Stratford-upon-Avon, and it's about Shakespeare's son, Hamnet, who he later, I guess, would change the name for his play Hamlet. I don't really know. Anyway, Hamnet and his twin, I think they both get quite ill, and one of them doesn't make it. That's as much as I can read from the description. So this will be set in the I'm guessing the 1500s. Yes, 1596. And it's a story about marriage and grief. And from what I've been told, Shakespeare doesn't dominate this story. So it's more about the relationships. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. I meant to read it over Christmas, but I didn't get around to it. And then lastly, from the bookcase, I really want to read another classic. So I picked Charlotte Bronte's Villette. I think that's how you say it. This is just a copy that I picked up in a charity shop when we could still get to the charity shops. And I've never read it, so I don't know anything about it. It says published in 1853, Villette was Charlotte Bronte's last novel and is often regarded as her most emotionally and aesthetically satisfying work. As in Jane Eyre, the theme is one of passionate personal integrity, the struggle of an individual to preserve an independent spirit in the face of adverse circumstances. So I like Jane Eyre, so I think I'm going to enjoy this one as well. Okay, so that's all the books I have on my to be read pile. So that should keep me going. I mean, I'm not a prolific reader. I generally read a book every other week, I would say. So I feel like 12 books is definitely achievable for me. I normally read about 30 books a year. But like my crochet, what I want to read very much depends on my state of mind and how I'm feeling, and you know, whether I want a quick read or I really want to spend time getting to know some characters. So it's good to have a plan, I think, and to get some of the books read that I want to read, but at the same time I don't want to overly commit myself, because you know, like anything, it just depends on how I fancy, and sometimes I can read a book a week and other times I will read a book a month. It really depends. So I'm going to talk to you now. I've made some notes about the books that I'm excited to read that I don't currently own. So the first one is The Push, and I will put pictures here. That one is by Ashley Audrain, and that one really sounds interesting to me. I think it came out in this January, and it is described as a sort of psychological thriller about the dark side of motherhood, and I thought it was such an interesting concept because it's based on a woman who just can't bond with her daughter and starts to wonder if she's a monster. Like, her daughter starts to feel she's a monster, but also herself, and she comes from sort of a long line of mothers that seem to struggle with motherhood. From the people that I've heard who have read it, they've said they've just flown through it. It's one of those page turners. So, and I do love a good page turner, so I'm really excited to read that one. The next book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that is by V.E. Schwab. And that's another one. I think that one actually came out last year, maybe at the end of last year. I'll put it here. So you should be able to get that. If not, I'm guessing it's still available in hardback. I'm not sure, I'd have to look that up. It's the story of a woman, Addie, who makes a deal with a demon for immortality. And the deal is, in return for her immortality, he gets her identity, I suppose. So it means that people don't remember her. They forget her the minute they've met her. So she makes no lasting opinion on anyone. Anything she ever says to anyone is forgotten. So she leads this really, really long life with no friends, no family. I think she gets an annual visit from the demon once a year on the anniversary of their deal. And so she travels the world, and I'm guessing she's looking for ways to undo this deal that she's made. Until she comes across someone who actually remembers her. So who remembers, you know, having previously spoke to her. So that's the premise of the story. It sounds really good and unusual, and an unusual storyline. Up next is The Paris Library by Janet Skelslien Charles. I think I've pronounced that right. And that one's based on a woman who befriends a teenage girl in the 80s, and the girl slowly uncovers the truth about this elderly lady that she's befriended, and how she lived in Paris in the 30s, in 1939, and worked in the American Museum there when the Nazis occupied. So that sounds really, really interesting, and from what I can gather, it flashes forward and back between the 80s and the Second World War. So it sounds very beautiful, so I've added that to my wish list, and that one comes out in February. The next is a release by Kazuo Ishiguro, and again, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and that is Clara and the Sun, and that one's due out in March. I love everything Kazuo's written, Never Let Me Go, The Remains of the Day, so I'm really excited for that. It is about an artificial girl robot called Klara, who is waiting to be picked, I think. And she's making observations on humanity, really. It is a perspective of the changing modern world through the eyes of this artificial intelligence, this robot, I suppose, and what love means. So I think that will be really interesting. I love the stories that he writes, so I'm very excited for that to come out. Next is Nick by Michael Faris Smith, and this one is a sort of prequel to The Great Gatsby, which I think he's got a lot to live up to, because that's one of my favourite books. But it's not. It's about Nick Carraway, who is the narrator in The Great Gatsby. If you remember the story, he's the one that moves into the house next to Gatsby. And it's about his journey, like how he gets there, I suppose, to, I think it's West Egg, isn't it? So I think it's the First World War. Yes, it would be, wouldn't it? So it's him returning home from war, and then he decides to go travelling, and yeah, so it's about his life before, really. So I mean, I've got high hopes for it. I mean, I would read it anyway, but yeah, just I don't think anything can compare to Fitzgerald's writing, so I don't know, but I do love that period in time. So I will definitely be reading that one. That one comes out, I think, in February as well. And then a book that comes out in April is The Dictionary of Lost Words, and that is by Pip Williams. So it's set at the time that the first Oxford English Dictionary is being compiled by a group of male scholars. And for whatever reason, her place is under the table. I'm not sure if she's hiding there or if she's some sort of servant. I don't know. But they are choosing, the male scholars are choosing what words get put into the English dictionary, and any words that they agree are not relevant or they don't want to include, they're just dropping them on the floor, and she picks them up and learns the meaning of these words. And what she discovers is that a lot of the words that are being discarded are words to do with women, servitude, common folk, slavery. So she decides that she's going to compile her own dictionary of these forgotten words. So that just sounds like something I would love. So I'm excited for that. And again, I don't know anything about the author. Like I said, it's a debut novel, but I read the blurb and I just thought, yes, I'm going to read that. So we'll see how we get on with that one. And then I'm not sure how many that is, but I've got one more. So the last book is called The Mystery of Mrs Christie, and that is written by Marie Benedict. And it is a work of fiction based on an event that actually happened. So in December 1926, Agatha Christie actually went missing. I think she was missing for around a week, and there was a national hunt for her. The police were looking for her, and I think she turned up a week later with claiming amnesia. She claimed she just couldn't remember what happened to her. They'd found her car, I think they'd found her car somewhere. Anyway, nobody knows really what happened. For whatever reason, she kept it to herself, or maybe she just couldn't actually remember. So this novel really is a fictional work of that period, about what happened during that week she was lost, I suppose. So that's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Because, you know, it's based on something that actually happened. And I suppose there are lots of theories about that, the week that she went missing. I actually had not even heard about this event before I looked up the book. So I must read some more about it now, because my interest has been piqued. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I love an Agatha Christie book. So it would be interesting to read a point of view, I suppose, on that. So hopefully that will be good as well. So I think that's 12 books now. So hopefully I will get the opportunity to work my way through those, but thought it might be nice to share some of those with you, because I know a lot of us love books and reading, and it's nice to see that there are some new releases to look forward to as well, especially at the moment. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I just thought I would pop it out as a standalone video, because yeah, I thought it might be interesting, and it's the start of the year, so that's what I'll be working my way through as the year progresses. Obviously there'll be lots more books in between, and I'll share those on my podcast as usual, but there's some to be getting on with anyway. So I hope you're all well, and I will be back next week with a podcast. Bye bye.